Okay, me too. Well,
All right. So I'll get us started here, and we'll move in. So, all right. Good to see you, Wmpyr. How you doing?
good. Can't
We're
be doing
talking
better.
about Billy Blanks tonight, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, and Don the Dragon,
And
both of them.
the dragon. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but two different movies. We're talking about
Yes.
Future Kick and TC 2000. TC 2000 was just released not too long ago from Vinegar Syndrome, where they made it into a Blu-ray release.
Okay. I wonder if are they the same guys that produced the movie or made the movie back in the day, or
No, I
is
don't
this
think so.
something new? You mentioned it last time, but I was trying to look at who produced it, and there was something with syndrome or something. I don't know. I watched it a few days ago, so I didn't get all the details.
Yeah.
But either way, watching it on Blu-ray would be awesome. I watched it just on the web.
Right. And both of these movies are, I believe, 90s, early,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah.
And so back in the day, martial arts action flick, but
Dude,
they're both sci-fi.
they're awesome, man. I think that Steven Seagal could get some tips from these guys, man. He should have back then. Right, just jumping right in. TC 2000. I like that Bolo's in it, and he's a good guy.
Oh man, yeah.
I think he's a good guy. Yeah,
Yo, no,
he
no,
is
for
a good guy.
sure. So
Yeah,
Bolo, of course, steals the show, right? Like you
yeah.
said, this time he's a good guy. What'd you think of him as a good guy? Because normally he's such an awesome, amazing bad guy. Was it believable as a good guy?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he even does Tai Chi. That's what I liked in this movie because I remember back in the day learning about Bolo, obviously from Bloodsport, and he was even back in the Enter the Dragon. We mentioned that, but Bolo was always into more of the Tai Chi stuff, from what I remember learning about him back then. I'm sure anyone can look him up now, but back in the 90s, when you looked somebody up, you couldn't necessarily do it on the internet. You had to either read about them in a magazine or hear about them in an interview. Yeah. That's what I remember from Bolo. In this movie, they showcase some of that Tai Chi in fiction. Yeah. And I like the scene. Isn't there a scene where he fights Matthias Hughes at the end?
Yes.
Is that this movie?
Yeah.
Where he gives him a chi blast through the door?
Right. Exactly. I mean, so what you're talking about is that Bolo, in real life, the actor,
yes,
even though the way he looks, I mean,
he's ripped.
Yeah,
solid.
he's like a massive bodybuilder, scary looking dude. But in real life, the actor actually likes Tai Chi, right?
Yeah,
I read that too.
Gifted in the internal arts, the martial arts of Tai Chi.
And yeah, so I guess this movie was trying to cover some of that, and
maybe it just coincided. I don't know if they did it on purpose or not, but it was a great character role for him.
Yeah.
To see him as a good guy, to see him doing the Tai Chi, and it just seemed cool. I liked also that we've talked about it before, the underworld overworld aspect. This movie has it, and Futurekick, which we're going to talk about side by side. It also has that in terms of how they come from the moon.
Two different worlds. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they come to Earth.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to stick to TC 2000.
Yeah,
which we're on it. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do TC 2000.
So he fights Matthias Hughes at the end, but he's not the main character. Surprisingly, it's Billy Blanks.
Billy Blanks.
And Billy Blanks has there's a whole list of characters. Even Jalal Mary comes out.
That's right.
I mean, he's so awesome. He's got a painted face. He's the Picasso clan. Let's see.
Nicky Picasso is his name, right?
Yeah. Nick Picasso, right?
And the leader of the Nicky Picasso is the leader of the what is he? They're they're not underground. They're overground.
Yeah, they're the overground, but they're
a gang,
foot soldiers for some higher group. There's somebody orchestrating something, because remember, he's got that flip
Mm,
device, a little computer, handheld computer.
mm,
Which, by the way, like this was filmed in the '90s, but the future tech and everything that they have, it's like right on. Like if you look at it, it's just not touch screen like what we have now, but they weren't so out of
yeah.
touch with what they were doing with the tech that they had at the time, and then the fiction of how they were taking it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, but I like that. Like he's working with somebody. He's working with someone from the inside. Like we don't know yet at the
Yeah.
beginning of the movie.
Right.
We just know that they're always like a step ahead, and they've been harassing the trackers. That's what TC stands for, tracker communicator, I think.
Oh
And
man.
they're
Yeah.
like they're a unit from within this underground world where they go up and they police and make sure that things are safe, because eventually the underground people, I think they want to come back up. I'm not sure. Or
Well,
are they content down there?
so
It's weird. They're
what
like a cult.
the normal outside world is supposed to be like radioactive and
Damaged.
and
Yeah, the
damaged
ozone
bad,
layer.
right?
Yeah.
And so the rich people went underground,
Yes.
and they hired this patrol group, and those are the
Yeah, the
TC,
TCs.
right? And there's gangs and stuff that like invade, and they were like trying to get underground. They're trying to come in,
Yeah.
and the TC people stop that, right? That's their job. So
Are
that
the TCs cyborgs? Are we? Are they modified at all by like? Do they have a chip in the brain?
oh yeah. Because like remember when Billy Blanks was like, I don't want any part of this anymore, right? The guy
Yes.
the guy was like, go get your surgery done.
Yes.
Remember?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
They were gonna mind wipe him.
So they had to
Okay.
remove stuff. Yeah, I think it's small, implants.
Implants.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're still, they retain their humanness, but they're a little bit.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. So he's got a partner. We got to talk about her.
yeah,
I think she's sort of like the main attraction of the movie, because they end up turning her into the TC-2000X,
right.
which is a almost full-on cyborg with a lot more modification parts,
Right.
and she's controllable. They program her. Remember, there's that weird college kid doctor guy that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he has
Hey,
a crush
he's got a
on
whole
her.
other agenda.
Yeah, he's kind of weird and pervy. Yeah. But
Yeah.
so she's pretty much, she dies, comes back as a pretty much almost like an android, right?
Yeah, they bring her back completely as a cyborg, and her personality, all that stuff of her previous human life, that's over. But when they bring her back,
Yeah.
something happens in the process. Oh, you know what it is? I think it's when they take all those photographs of her, when they bring her to the press conference,
Yeah.
and the photographing. Because remember, the Overlord and the Dr. Perv, they're talking to each other in the control room, and he's like, no one's ever going to be able to access those memories. That's what the Doctor assures the Overlord.
Yeah.
And he's like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, no one. But when all those flashes go on, I think those flashes do something to her memory.
Yeah.
And it sort of shows her glitching.
Yeah.
And she fixes it. But later that glitch comes back when she's fighting Billy Blanks' character.
Yeah, because they
were sort of like boyfriend and girlfriend.
I don't know how. I wouldn't say boyfriend girlfriend, but they were close.
Yeah, they were pretty close for workers. Like she would go over to his house and chill out after work. Like but they were partners for 10 years, and that by itself gives you a great relationship, because you're putting your life on the line in this fictional world, the TC.
Absolutely.
So so they're always tight with each other.
Yeah.
So when she died, it was a big deal for him.
That's right.
A great loss. I mean, he wanders into that. He goes up into the upworld.
Yeah. Yeah, he goes up there, and is that where he encounters Bolo, right?
Yes, but not immediately.
Not immediately,
He goes up there and he meets some people and kind of discovers that there is a world up there. And remember
that it's not just hostiles, that there's actually people like trying to survive.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah,
normal people trying to just live normal. Like they just
yeah,
look like homeless people, right? But
yeah.
yeah.
Somehow, though, he does eventually meet up with Bolo.
Well, remember they come after him because they. This is after they try to. First of all, when they remove all the implants on him, the guy was like, "Why didn't you kill him?" Right? The overlord guy. He says to the
Yeah,
doctor guy, and he was like, "Well, that's gonna be all on me. I don't want to take that responsibility." And then he's like, "Okay," and he sends Matthias Hughes and his cronies after him, and he has
yes,
to escape the underground, and then that's how he ends up in the
in the
overworld. And
overworld.
that's
Yes,
actually some cool fight scenes, like in the tunnels and stuff, where
yes, and
he's
those
running away.
tunnels are so cool. Like, I love the practical aspect because they're really in some underground somewhere in Hollywood. Who
Oh
knows
yeah,
where?
oh yeah,
But they're using that, and I totally believe it. I buy it that
yeah,
they're in like a wasteland underground
yeah.
in a sewer system, and it's kind of like that other movie where we saw how they go from like one end of the city and then they end up in another part and through the underground.
Ring of Fire too.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
just goes on and on and
yeah.
on for miles and
Of
miles,
just
that underground
pipes
world.
and stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, all the pipes and everything.
Now,
The
Billy Blanks, you got to give him a lot of credit for the fight scenes that he does there. It's a
Yeah,
confined space, and this
yeah, he's a
dude's
pretty big dude.
he's doing spinning jump kick, aerial spinning jump kicks and stuff. I
Hmm.
mean, yeah, you could tell that I think that'd be really hard to do to
Oh, for
do
sure. He's
fight
really
scenes in there.
athletic too.
Yeah,
Like
he's super
I
athletic.
love his movies.
Yeah.
The thing about these movies that I like is that they have a start to finish. We're not going to see TC 2000 Part 2 or Part 3 or Part 4. And with the exception of Tiger Claws and some of these other movies, that start to finish aspect is a great, great part of the movie. You can watch it and then it has rewatchability. The second thing I like about it is that they do have sort of a moral lesson that they're teaching. Unlike some of those other adult-themed martial arts movies, like with my favorite guy here, Seagal, there's not much moral lesson going on there. With Above the Law, there was, but as you get on into the newer ones, no.
Right.
So this movie, it has that. Plus it's got just great entertainment, man. I love Cyborg, the Jean-Claude movie. So this one just sort of tops it for me in another level of Cyborg. Yeah, because it's the wasteland, and it's a believable wasteland. Just Cyborg was a believable wasteland, but this one kind of like it feels even better because the people like it. I like it. Like I don't know. Maybe it's the combination of the moral lesson. What was the moral lesson for Cyborg?
For Cyborg?
Yeah, so I think that's what it is. Like it's the combination of that. It's got a good moral lesson. There's a start and finish. Cyborg had a part 2, and I think there was even a part 3 that went straight to video.
Yeah.
And so that already kind of puts it on a lower tier, even though it was a higher star. So yeah, I like this movie, TC 2000. It's good. The partnership, she overrides. Remember, she's fighting with Billy Blanks, and in her brain, it's like override. It says override.
Yeah.
And she sort of gives him a chance, but then she goes back and fights again. And so it's pretty good. Like the good overcomes evil in this movie in a way.
Yeah, and
so that's what I mean. Like there's a moral there.
In the end, when the Overlord guy is trying to, you find out that the outside world is livable, that the Earth heals itself. And so this guy, he's doing the conspiracy where he's trying to destroy that.
Yeah.
Right? So it's sending the missiles, the rockets out, and he's trying to keep it messed up so that the underground
and he was working with Nikki
Picasso.
That's right, Picasso. Yeah. And that's where that scene where the girl, before she's TC2000X, she's still the partner, she says, hey, they've got more information than us. They know about this corridor that we don't even know about. Right. And that's where they discover the handheld unit.
Yes.
And how they had a TC code that code had to have come from somebody that was higher ranked than they.
Because that area basically takes them to where this girl Zoe, her dad was a scientist. And
that's right, and so Zoe's locket is the key
into this area, which I guess it could do two things. It could help heal the earth, or it could destroy the top, right? It like maybe it could do either or something like that, right?
I think so. And she ends up fulfilling her destiny, turning good.
Yeah.
But that her dad was a scientist, and he built that lock into the thing, and she didn't really know much about her dad except that she had that thing.
Yeah.
And luckily for us and for the movie, for the sake of the plot, her brainwashing doesn't really work. They don't, and she ends up remembering.
Yeah, but it's Bolo that saves the day. Where he types in the password.
Yes, because he types in Zoe in like another language.
Life.
Yes.
Life.
Yes.
Like Zoe is Latin and Greek.
Yes.
For life, and then plus. Like, they're like, how'd you know? And he's like, he told me. The dad.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we learned right at that moment that Bolo was friends with the dad.
But even before that, like, remember Matthias knew who he was?
Yes.
And he was like, you used to be a great warrior. Now you're nothing. Remember?
Yeah, because I think I talked about it in another one of our videos. That fight scene, he's all, like, tough. Matthias is real tough. And they're fighting, and he's egging him on, but then he runs, and Bolo like bangs on the door. He's like, "Hey, let me out!"
Yeah,
because the Overlord has already armed the sequence for the self-destruct.
Right.
And if they don't get out of there, it's going to self-destruct. I think that's when they were trying to make the rise out of the tunnels into the overworld,
into the chamber where they're blasting stuff. But so. And that's where Bolo, of course, uses the chi shot.
Oh, that's so awesome!
But if you look at that fight, it's a good fight. I'm glad.
Oh, it's totally an awesome fight.
Yeah, it's not that they were pretty neck and neck. Like Bolo wasn't wiping the floor with a guy or anything.
No, and then it's also like a good fight where it takes place because of the environment. Like I think they're on that walkway thing with some. Like there's a little bit of confinement. I don't know if it's a walkway, but there's some confinement there. They're not in a big open space.
Okay. I thought those two had it pretty good. Billy Blanks was, I think, more confined, I think.
Yes, okay.
His fight, yeah.
You're right. It's only when Matthias runs through the door that there's the confinement.
Yeah.
But they do have a pretty open fight.
And man, they were, like I said, pretty neck and neck until, like, I think at that point, neck and neck, and then Matthias his character must have been like, okay, I'm done. Like, I don't have anything left.
He's sort of like a bad guy, and a selfish bad guy. So
for sure,
he has to make the quick getaway and think of himself.
Yeah, but no, that was crazy awesome. And what was also interesting in this was when they're trying to show scenes of the top world, how it was like post-apocalyptic. We see Bolo doing like these underground fights. He's like a champion.
Yes.
Yeah, almost like not Mad Max style, but like in these, like, and they're bedding for like water.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like that's how he meets Billy Blanks. In fact.
Yeah, because Billy helps him out because one of the guys get mad and takes out a knife and he
cheats at the end. Yeah.
So.
Bolo gives him the water as an offering.
Yeah. So do you think Bolo's character was a TC or like a pre-TC before? You know?
Man, that's a good question. He could be, or he could have been like a regular cop or something like.
And that's why Matthias knew him, and that's why he knew Zoe's dad and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. And then Billy Blanks must have been like more like second, third generation.
Second or third, for sure.
Yeah.
I wonder if Bolo had any implants or anything. I doubt it. he was probably just natural.
Maybe it was older than that. So
Yep, it
yeah,
was a lot older.
yeah.
Because sometimes they don't give backstories in these movies, but like a typical story arc would be 10, 20, maybe even 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, cause how old was Zoe? She looked like she was in her 20s, mid 20s. Could have been younger than 30.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. No. Yeah. They were definitely not. Not rookies for sure. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Bolo had a history with the dad,
Right.
and then at the end, the way he kind of like the way he makes it, like he could be like Uncle Bolo, like
right.
so he
right.
definitely could have been like even playing with the little girl when she was little, like
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
being such good friends with the dad.
Totally.
Because I think there's a scene, like I want to say, is there like a scene where Bolo's with like some, like there's animals that are alive and like the animals like him, or am I getting confused with him in another movie, The Fearless Tiger?
I think that's another movie because in this one he had like a daughter or someone.
Okay, yeah, got it.
Remember, and she was trying to explain to Billy Blanks, you know, who Nikki Picasso was and stuff, and yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
which Nikki and his crew are bad dudes. They a lot of this is almost like straight out of Fist of the North Star. Do you get that vibe?
Oh man, I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah, like some of the writers, like they're influenced by it.
Yeah.
And then who did the music? Is it that same guy, Varouge or Varoge? I think is the name of the music composer. I've seen him in a lot of these Jalal Mary movies, and even some of these other with Dawn, the Ring of Fire and stuff. I don't know if he did Ring of Fire, but I've seen his name, Varouge, Varoge.
This one wasn't bad at all. The music, yeah.
Pretty good.
Right, pretty good.
Yeah, so, overall, man, this movie was great. It just had a lot of the good elements. Plus, Billy Blanks is such a good actor. Like, he's real believable.
Yeah, to me, this is one of his best, more entertaining ones. And so we got to talk about, like, Bolo using the chi, right? Where he does the shot. I remember that part where he grabs the kid's hand.
Yes, he does the chi kick.
Yeah, okay, so there you go. So that tells you that he could use the chi more than just one way.
Yeah, they're foreshadowing. They're giving us the little glimpse that he's going to use it in the future for sure with that scene. It takes you got to watch it a couple times to see what's going on there. But when he grabs the child's hand and does that kick, it is sort of like a straight out of cartoon or something.
Yeah, like a Dragon Ball. Yeah.
Yep, Dragon Ball Z, something like that.
But now, should we go to Futurekick?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, there's not much. This movie's a great story. It talks about, let's see, a guy who loses his partner, and in the process of losing his partner, also loses a bit of himself. Then his whole worldview is shattered because he discovers that everything he had worked for was a lie. When he goes up and sees for himself that the overworld is not damaged, the ozone has sort of repaired itself, and it's that basic storyline. I don't know if I've got the details right, but similar like to Highlander 2 and those other where the ozone layer. So when he discovers this about himself and about the world, it's a rebirth. And then his partner comes back to life. So it's a double rebirth.
Yeah.
And he's got to now struggle all over again and start from zero and then achieve that high level status. He had worked for many years, 10 years as a TC. So he had like a retirement, but all that was kind of over because they're trying to kill him. So now he's got to start again. And in this case, since he lost a partner, he lost all his company, everything he worked for, he gains now these underground people, the friendship of Bolo and the reunification of the professor with his daughter Zoe
Mhm.
and ends up saving the world. So
Yeah.
it becomes a much better place.
Yeah. I mean,
So it's a great movie. The character development, dynamic character.
Yeah.
Everybody gets to change. We see that change in everyone. I think even almost like in Matthias at the very end when he gets the chi blast through the door, like it's almost like he's talking to Bolo, like you say, that they have a history with each other.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Their back and forth banter is real familiar. They have like a vibe.
And not just that, because Matthias' character also had a problem with Billy Blanks.
Yep.
And remember in the training, they have an awesome fight where they go at it and they're neck and neck.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
But like in this movie, one of the things that kind of throws me off a little bit is that the rich people are underground. They're not.
Yes.
I'm so used to seeing that the poor people are underground.
Yeah.
And like even when they showed like Bolo doing the fights and stuff, it kind of made me think that they were underground, but actually it's not. They're on the surface world.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm wondering, like in the underground world, because we don't really get to see it. We just see like the headquarters, the base operations, but like where are the normal people living there? So is there like a mall and it just looks like normal? Can you imagine escalators?
Yeah, I think I do see that in my head because remember, there's that great hall where the Overlord is giving his speech, and it looks like it could be like from any old normal college or university lecture hall.
Okay.
And there's a scene there, I think, but I would kind of envision them in pods. Like I think of like pod people living underground. Remember Resident Evil 1?
Yeah.
The first one where they're underground and in
massive.
The window scene where you think there's an outside, but it's really just a pretend window scene. They probably have that in this setup.
And kind of like I'm almost imagining literally like an underground mall or something.
Yeah.
And like remember when Billy Blanks is running, he's because he lived like in an apartment, right?
Yes. A tiny little apartment, like a pod apartment.
So all those people working there probably
have their
live
own apartment.
Yeah, and then Zoe probably has one like that. But then like the more richer normal people there, the citizens probably have a much nicer.
Oh yeah,
is my guess.
Sure. Totally.
Yeah. And then,
but they don't show it in this movie.
No, So that's kind of the stuff that you kind of have to think about, you know.
Yeah. That's a con. It could be. I would have liked to have seen a little more of that.
Right.
Like in the movie Elysium, we see that when they're living in that colony up there.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, and you get to see the beautiful, big buildings and the rich people's houses.
Yeah.
Even when they land and see, so we don't see any of that in TC 2000.
So let's go to Futurekick.
Yeah.
From here.
And that's a great because in Futurekick we do see a little bit of it.
A lot more.
There's an airplane, there's a lot more luxury.
Yeah.
You could tell right away. I know I'm jumping in, but we'll backtrack right away when Meg Foster's at that police station.
Yeah.
And she's pissed and she's giving them all that lip.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, stand in line, lady. Like, you could tell right away. She does a great job of portraying a rich, out of touch person living on the outskirts of town in the really, really rich part of town where you have to take a helicopter to get there.
Right.
But in this case, she's living on the moon.
It's a ship.
But they're so out of touch that when they have a concept of what it's like at the police station.
Yeah.
But when she goes to the police station, it's not like that at all.
No, she's a fish out of water.
But let's get into that. This is a great movie. So Futurekick.
Yeah.
I did not expect to see what I saw.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I was looking. I had to go look up. Did Philip K. Dick write this movie? What in the world? What am I watching? Total Recall Part 2.
It's Terminator / Total Recall.
Dude, it's so Philip K. Dick. It's awesome.
The music is Terminator, obviously.
Yeah.
You
I
know.
think again, I wonder if it's the same guy. Like, if you're by your computer and you can do like a double, two at the same time thing, you can look it up and see who did the music. But
No,
it's still great. Like
I can't
that
right
music
now,
is awesome, man.
Yeah.
Like, I give it a good thumbs up. What else do we have? It's just kind of like gritty, like raunchy. Like, it's not a high level, big budget movie. I think it's a lower budget, but it clicks off all the boxes for me. It's so perfect. I love it. Like, there's nothing wrong with this movie. It's almost like, remember the Batman Part 1, the Michael Keaton?
Yeah.
How you don't recognize any buildings. There's no contemporary architecture. Everything's set pieces.
Yeah.
This is one of those movies. Everything's a set piece. Like, I don't recognize anything.
No, but like we were saying, compared to TC 2000, which TC 2000 is great, but this one does a better job of showcasing the world.
Yes.
That you're in. Like, even the little things like that. Remember that game that they would play with like a mind thing with the laser that they'd have to, like, but you're betting your life on it. Just little things like that. All the strip joints they show.
The heart extractor, like, that guy was so scary.
Yeah.
Like, just meeting that guy, and then once he took out that, like, weapon that, it had the knife here, and then the knife there, the 3-pronged knife. That was scary, and when he takes out the guy, like Meg Foster's husband.
Yeah.
That's just, and then the heartbreak where she finds out that he's on a date with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
It just breaks her heart. That one scene where you feel that pain. Like, you feel like your heart is broken. Like, oh my goodness.
Right. So
she did a great job. But once again, just that disparity between the rich and the poor, you feel it in this movie. Like, double.
So we got to explain. What is it? So the rich people are living on the moon because Earth is kind of like crappy.
The same thing. Like, it's a similar premise to the previous movie.
TC 2000.
Either through radiation poisoning or something.
Wars
the
or
Earth
whatever.
Has lost its virtue.
Yeah.
And people that live here on the Earth, they also have to struggle a lot more. I think they have to get new organs or certain body parts and things. Isn't the husband involved in some kind of job where he programs things?
He was doing like fantasy vacation stuff, right? Like,
okay, so it's virtual reality.
Yeah,
so
the virtual
reality. It's not where they're selling body parts.
No, that's not him. No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the police chief. Right?
Yeah, the police chief is the one selling the body parts.
Yeah. Teamed up with sketchy doctor.
You don't know this at the beginning of the movie, but you sort of learn it little by little that the police chief is working with the main people that were the boss of Meg Foster's husband. Mm-hmm. He was a boss, but he wasn't even in on the real scam, which the police chief is the guy behind the human trafficking.
Right.
Trafficking of organs and things.
Right.
Oh, that guy was scary with this.
It's kind of unusual, like what they did in this movie is, if you notice, you got that guy, and then you have his bodyguard, the Penn guy. What's his face? Sean Penn's brother.
Yes, Christopher.
Chris Penn, right?
Yes.
So, because normally you think they would just put that into one character.
Yeah.
But
so
here
one guy's the muscle.
Yeah, they actually divided it. So, to me, that kind of sets the overtone for this movie is for a straight to video type of movie.
Yeah.
They really put in a lot. Let's
backtrack a tiny bit
sure.
with Don's character.
Yeah.
See, Don's the main star. Here's the main draw.
Right.
Don the Dragon plays a Siron or...
Siron, yeah.
Okay, so they're like a cybernetic
or Cyberon, right?
Cyberon. Yeah, there we
Cyberon.
go.
Yeah.
Cyberon.
Yeah.
So cybernetic operative human, cybernetic human.
Yeah.
A play on words, but nevertheless, it's the same thing as TC, where we've got a chipped out guy, except he's the last of his kind. There's only one other operating cyborg out there. But the thing that I loved about this movie, and I don't know if the people out there in YouTube will see the parallels, but the irony is it's so amazing. These guys, these Cyberons, were created to police crime.
That's right.
And corruption.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening is that the government is so corrupt, working with corporations.
Yeah.
That the Cyberons end up turning on the government because the government were the bad guys.
Well, the corporations, that built the Cyberons, they were the ones that were.
They were the bad guys.
Yeah,
they fulfill their program to the letter, and they don't do it wrongly.
Right.
They do it correctly, but they end up pursuing their own creator. They're the corporations that built them.
Exactly. So that's the irony, and then. So then the corporations hunted them down. And then Don in one scene explains that it was a massive war. Yeah. Like, I mean, they went like flying out into outer space and they were chased and,
Yeah, it was like
battle.
Jedi Order 66. Everybody was axed.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was some serious, like that's another movie right there.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But I love it. They keep it, again, short and sweet. It's one movie. Yeah. We get all these stories and all these different threads that could be by themselves one movie. So they're packing in a lot. And it does have Chris Penn. Yeah. And this was right around the best of the best years.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's like 91. What is Futurekick 94?
No. I think it is like 90, 91. Ring of Fire 2 that we saw actually came later. So this came out 1990, if I'm not mistaken, with Ring of Fire 1 and maybe Futurekick.
Okay, you're right. So it's early 90s, 90, 91.
Yeah.
So Best of the Best Part 1 and Part 2 were like late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah. I remember seeing Best of the Best 2 at the movie theater, and that was, I think, 94 or 93.
Okay,
something
so
like that.
Chris Penn was still sort of in okay shape. Kind of sucks what happened to him, but
what happened to him?
He had a heart attack at age 40.
Oh no!
And
he
died.
Passed away.
Yes.
Oh my gosh!
I was watching an interview with Don the Dragon just the other day. I may have emailed you about this interview. And in the interview, he talks about how Chris Penn had been writing this story since in high school times. I think they knew each other from back then, like they were friends.
Yeah, they're buddies. Yeah, they're buddies.
Yeah, so he had been writing a story from high school times, and no one ever wanted to do the story. It was a Vietnam story about a Vietnam vet from America that goes back to Vietnam, and it was the opposite. It doesn't do carnage, doesn't do fighting or warfare. Just goes back and raises a family and like just a normal life.
Yeah.
Which probably would be a great movie for today's time.
Right.
But back then, nobody wanted to see that. People wanted to see the action.
Right.
Chris Penn had this idea in his head. So Don the Dragon, they were talking about something totally unrelated.
Yeah.
And Don had just got word from a guy, like at a party or at some event. Somehow the guy said, "Hey, you still got that Chris Penn movie?
Yeah.
I got the funding for that now. Like, we can do it."
Oh.
And so Don calls Chris that night.
Oh,
and he's like, "Hey, man, like, by the way, I got the funding for your movie. Like, it's on. Like, we're going to do it." And so that's the last time they ever talked. Like, the next day it was within hours. Wmpyr was like within hours that Chris died.
Yeah.
So I think, like, all the excitement got him, because he was probably near 300 pounds when he died.
Oh, really? He had
Yeah,
ballooned
he
up.
was
Oh,
extremely overweight,
oh,
and he was talking to Don, and that's what they were talking about on the phone. Like, hey, we're gonna get back into shape for the movie.
yeah.
Like, I really want you to help me, and yeah, we're gonna get into shape, and the movie's on. I got the money and everything, and the hang up the phone, and that was it. Like
How tragic.
yeah,
Yeah.
really, really
Oh,
tragic, and you
oh
can see
man.
it in the interview where Don talks about it. Like he
Yeah.
gets a little shaky,
'Cause
But
he was awesome in the best of the best movies.
yeah, he was great. He was a
he,
great, really natural.
he was great.
Comes
Yeah.
off wonderful as a character. He could have done great. I loved him in I think it was Reservoir Dogs.
Mm.
So yeah, it's just a shame that he died. But anyway, that's he comes out.
Yeah, he's in
this
he's
movie.
in Futurekick. Yeah, as the
a bad
other
guy.
as the other Cyberon, like a
Yeah.
secret Cyberon or something.
He's the secret Cyberon because remember somebody says like there's another one out there.
Yeah, and that's him, and then him and Don have the cool fight scenes.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's really cool.
Yes.
But yeah,
this movie was like I may have missed part of it, like not that fight scene, but I watched it on YouTube and it was significantly shorter than what's listed on IMDb. Like YouTube may have cut out a couple few minutes, like 6, 7, 8, 9 minutes of the movie.
Okay.
And but I wonder, for maybe nudity or something. I don't know.
You could watch it on Tubi, man.
Okay, I'll try to find it again on Tubi. But I saw the whole movie, like it was on there, like
right.
It was just a few minutes it was missing.
Like you're saying, I guess to develop the dirty atmosphere, like gritty.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of strip joint scenes.
Yep, there are, and that's what I think it cuts out because you sort of see a scene and then you're like, hey, wait a minute, what? Why did the music just go weird? And then the thing, but it's like seamless the way they edit it. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
And then so I think like what I said earlier that this was made right. I think at the same time as the first Ring of Fire.
Yeah,
so
1991.
If I'm not mistaken. So you see Eric Lee in here in this movie. In the very beginning, he's one of the guards trying to arrest Don.
Yes.
And then you also see Maria Ford in here as one of the strippers.
You mentioned that too. Yeah, you mentioned that. And I think I was trying to look, but then I don't know if I saw or not because it could have been edited out from the YouTube video.
It could have been.
Because I watched it on YouTube. So.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, no, they do a great job of showing this world through the eyes of, like you're saying, Meg Foster's character.
Yeah, from Meg Foster's perspective. Yeah. And even when she meets up with the other girl that, who, it was her friend that I think was murdered.
Mm-hmm.
Was it her friend that was the girlfriend of the husband?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Because there's that one guy, that creepy homeless guy that saw it all happen.
Yeah. The guy that he made the mistake of asking the killer for, he's like, usually you get paid for information. Yeah. He made a big old mistake saying that.
Oh, he did. He cost him his life. Yeah. Oh man.
But
the police chief was in on it. That's such a racket. Like that's maybe back then, I guess it was a golden ticket if you could write a story like that. Maybe there was a lot of corruption in the 50s, 60s, or 70s. Who knows?
You did a good, like what you mentioned earlier about like how Meg Foster, like her coming from a rich world into this and then trying to figure out her husband's death and all that, and she's talking to the police and everything, and there's really no help, and the frustration she's going through, like nobody can help her, she can't get through, she can't talk to the right people, and she's just kind of like helpless in this weird world that she doesn't belong in, and then in comes Don, which Don actually had a arrangement with her husband, and that
Yes,
fell
the
through.
bill, the
Yeah.
$50 bill, which I love the currency. Like they stick with paper currency in the future, but the I guess they're bigger numbers on the
Yeah.
bills.
Yeah, I don't know, it looked cool. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, it just the whole story and stuff, it works out for me. Yeah.
yeah. It's almost got also like the Total Recall vibe too. I know
Oh,
we mentioned Terminator, but
but
where she's
both
got to go to that district of the red light district
right, right.
from her hotel, and so
Yes.
I thought that was kind of scary. Like she's all alone and she's walking, and she's from the up from the moon,
Right.
so they don't. Oh, and then there's lines. There's literal lines in this movie, like "Go back to the moon," or where they like insult you, like
Yeah, yeah. But no, I mean that's when she meets Don and you're like, yeah, that's a great idea. Like have him as your bodyguard. Like you, the viewer, want that, you know?
yeah,
And
yeah.
she kind of starts to do that. They do, he does end up helping her. And yeah, no, for sure, the absolute 100% Total Recall because of the whole virtual reality thing that they
Of
do in the
course, yep.
beginning and also the end. Yeah.
Which like until you watch all the way through to the end, but
Yeah.
like at some point where before she takes off the thing, because when her husband leaves, like I got to wondering, am I watching her virtual reality experience? Did we just go into her head? Like, are we watching what she's imagining or the program that she just uploaded? So it's kind of got like that Total Recall vibe right there.
Yeah.
Did what we just watched as a movie, did that really happen? Or was it in her head? And then we find out at the end, no.
Yeah. No, in the beginning, I was going like, because I had seen this multiple times, so I was like, where does it start? Like her story, her headset, like,
Yeah.
where, and they blend it into where you can't tell. And
you can't tell because
no.
she puts on the headset. She says bye to her husband. She puts on the headset.
Yeah.
And then the next scene that we get is presumably one of two scenarios. The headset view, and we're now inside her head.
Right.
Or the real world that's happening.
Yeah.
In the real world,
where she takes it off and answers the So
yes.
So that's the critical
and the
point.
police call her like, "Hey, your husband's dead."
Right. You're right. That right there. That's the critical point. So yeah.
At least with Total Recall, we get the sweat on the dude.
All right.
That bead of sweat to know that him and Sharon Stone and the others, Michael Ironsides. I think that's Michael Ironsides.
Yeah, Michael Ironsides. Yeah. Great actor. Yeah.
So, what happens at the end? I'm a little hazy here.
At the very end, or
no? Like, how do they resolve things here with the police chief and?
Well,
does the police chief get killed?
Yeah, they get killed by the knife dude.
The knife guy, right?
Yeah. So evil kind of defeats evil, and then we're left with just the knife dude and the android, the cyber, the other Cyberon, the Chris Penn. Yeah. So we're just left with those two, and then of course, they fought though, Don and Chris Penn, and they had a pretty good fight. But then they split off, and then they meet again for the final fight.
And how does that one go? Like, where does it take place?
Where does it take place? I thought it was a dark alley.
It's an alley, right?
Yeah, I thought it was a dark alley. Yeah, because it happened so fast. I thought they grabbed her, Meg Foster.
Meg,
yeah. And I thought they were like, they were gonna finish her. Like it happens almost abruptly. And I don't know if he was like, you've been asking questions about me or something. Yeah. And from there, Don just comes in and saves the day, kind of thing. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken.
Let's see. It was the since he's working with the chief of police, that's why it's like you've been asking questions, right? That's like where the line comes from. Because she's investigating what happened with her husband. And,
yeah, she was,
and that guy is the guy that traffics all the organs. Man, this movie was so ahead of its time. Like 1991, and it was touching on all these subjects that right now people from now would love to make a movie like this, but now times.
I kind of feel like, okay, so we're for Don the Dragon to make a movie like this, just like Billy Blank's making TC 2000 or being in TC 2000.
Yeah.
Both movies are, I mean, it's like, hey, you're a martial arts action star. Let's make a movie. To do sci-fi is very, very ambitious.
Yeah.
Super ambitious,
Yeah.
I mean, even like for Arnold doing Total Recall, that's not as normal, or The Running Man,
Well, we're dealing with a total different epoch. The period of 1989 in 1990, 91, there wasn't sci-fi genre the way it is today. The explosion of what we have today, with every movie is about outer space, or every movie has a extraterrestrial life form. There's always something in every modern movie, or even the lone space traveler that's on a quest. You've seen movies like that.
Yeah.
So back then, these guys really branched out, man.
They really did, and
you got to give them a lot of credit.
A
lot more credit than the typical A-list martial arts actor star that it was only going to do one type of movie.
For one, if I was a producer and they said to me, we want to do a sci-fi action or a sci-fi movie, right away I know the budget's going to be much higher. So that, once again, for them to do this on a straight to video kind of platform, my hat goes out. You got to be creative. You got to be very.
They know how to tell stories. I think that I want to say that Futurekick was produced by Roger Corman again.
Like all the Dons, right? Or most of them?
All of them. Most of them are Corman's involved.
Yeah.
At least maybe 20 out of the 30.
Right.
But either way, there's something about filmmaking that I never took filmmaking classes, but you don't need to take these classes you watch enough movies, you can tell that they knew what they were doing back in the 50s, like with the movies The Ten Commandments or Ben-Hur, those big budget movies. So a guy like Roger Corman is coming off of that world of the 50s and 60s and great epic movies. So there's a formula for movie making. I think he captures that formula. He's able to commercialize it and put it into print and capitalize on it. A lot of these movies that Don made were successful. Yeah. Really successful. So he may not have had the large impact or presence like some of these A-list stars, but like I said in some of these other videos that we've done, we're still talking about them today, and I think that charismatic presence, the off-screen and on-screen presence, it carries over well still today in this current age. You can look up any Don the Dragon interview of today, and you'll see how just a humble guy he is, a normal, ordinary dude.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, and I love this movie, Futurekick. I'm probably going to try to look for it on Tubi. Okay, but I did, that YouTube version was just, like I said, a few minutes shorter, so I don't know if I missed. It was probably most of the strip scenes, because all the fight scenes that we talked about were there. The fight scene with Chris Penn, the taking out the sheriff, or not the sheriff, but the chief of police. Like everything was there. All the gruesome,
all the main plot points.
Terror.
So now, I kind of thought that maybe they learned from this movie. And so when they did Ring of Fire 2, it's not sci-fi, but it was like, hey, let's do, another movie that's not your typical action flick. Let's go way out there. But with a more limited budget. Because I feel like with Future Kick they probably spent a lot more than they had to have.
Yeah, because they had that airplane scene going to the moon
all that,
and just the set pieces. Everything is real dark. It looks like Blade Runner. You know, like they really did try to copy. Well, not copy's probably not the best word, but they wanted to pay homage to a lot of these sci-fi movies.
Yeah.
Of the past.
I remember a lot of scenes. Like, do you remember the part where Don he's trying to find his next bounty, so he just goes into this place where, you know, that's where he gets money, and then because the person was, I think, still alive, they didn't get, they were like, dead you get this much, alive you only, right?
You get like,
and he's
less
like,
money
what?
Alive.
Yeah, he's like, whatever, and then he goes over and he's looking for his next bounty, and she's trying to talk to him. You know, just all those are all, like you're saying, sets. Those are yeah, and they did a great job. That
must have cost a lot of money, but it pays off because those sets are well made. You really feel like you're in this world. Like, I don't want to be trapped in that world. It's terrifying.
No,
it's a feeling. I do feel from her perspective that fish out of water feeling. They capture it well in this movie.
They do a good job. So final verdict, TC2000 and Future Kick. You recommend both, obviously, right?
Oh, I definitely recommend both. And like I said, I may have surprised you, but TC2000, it is real good competition for that Cyborg 1.
Oh, man.
Real good competition for that. Because we talked about Cyborg back a while back, and that movie was just one of my most favorites. I love the scenes, how the sun comes off in that movie. It almost has like a blue hue in the film. It just looks really, really good and dry.
Yeah.
But TC sort of had that look also.
Okay.
In a darker way, because there's not a lot of sunlight scenes in TC. No. A lot of it is dark scenes where they're either underground or in the nighttime.
Right.
I don't remember a lot of sunlight scenes. So in Cyborg, I know we're not comparing these, but it is a good direct comparison. They do have a lot of sunlight scenes.
They do, yeah, for sure.
And that's what I liked, was that sunlight from Cyborg. But that's where this one kind of is. It's a little bit less, but. Oh, man, it's a great verdict. 2 thumbs up for both of them, for sure.
Yeah.
Future Kick just feels like such a Philip K. Dick novel. Like you're reading one of his, but I couldn't find any information about it. Whoever wrote the story had to have been influenced by...
For sure. Definitely Terminator plus Total Recall, and then throw in some Blade Runner. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we know that James Cameron worked with Roger Corman back in the 60s, I think. So,
okay.
Even Martin Scorsese. Like, Roger Corman's a big-time producer, but from back then. And, obviously these names, they've gone on to bigger things. They're more famous now than he,
but he knew them all. Yeah.
And more importantly, he knows the formula for how to make a great movie, how to set up a scene, and so that when you're shooting that scene, everything in that frame belongs in that frame, and everything in that frame is set up so that your eye isn't stressing out when you're seeing one object here, another object a few feet away, and another object even farther away, and they're all placed purposefully together so that all 3 objects will make a congruent image in your head.
Right.
That kind of stuff is what I say with the formula.
Yeah.
And these guys have that formula. A lot of the newer movies today, they're using strange movie angles, a handheld camera. They're trying to go what is called, quote unquote, outside the box. The box is perfect. The box is developed from the 1920s, 30s, and 40s. That's how we get to the 80s. So I don't like a lot of the new movies. The formula is good. Roger Corman is great. That's my verdict. Stick with old school.
Yeah, stick with old school. Same here. So anyway, thanks again.
Yeah, for sure, man. I loved it. The music, the action, stories. Yeah,
So,
start to finish. You're not going to see a sequel of these. That's for sure. Yeah.
So yeah, highly recommended. Thank you all for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks a lot for watching, guys.
Yes.
We'll see you next time. All
All
right,
right.
Wmpyr.
Later.
Sensei Rick is out.